Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Hertz Tribeca Trade Group with your end of day recap for Tuesday. Feels like it's later in the week already, but it is only Tuesday. Just a ton of action. A lot of names reporting pre-market after the close. We'll go through some of those names, and a lot of option activity in some names. So I actually ended up taking a few trades today, a few long trades. Actually unwinded some positions too because I really don't want to be. I want to have a higher cash position right now, but I'll go through that in a second. Let me just go through some of the names. iRobot, this is one name that I played for earnings. There were no weeklies in this one, but so I went out to August and purchased the 92, 97 and a half call spreads. This looks pretty good. So they had good earnings, plus SoftBank announced that they took a stake in this name. So a crushing of a quarter price action here, all the way up to 110 from a close of 88 bucks. Big move for iRobot after the close. The rest of the names that reported, and I'll go through a couple of them. The only two sore spots I would say, Amgen, and Amgen had good numbers, and then Akamai, which fell apart last quarter as well. The rest of the names that reported really strong numbers, and looks like strong price reaction. The only one that didn't have the price reaction was Amgen. We'll start with AT&T up. U.S. Steel to the upside, beat on the bottom line and on the top line. Same thing with AMD, I believe. AMD also up 15-14. Texas Instruments. So we saw a lot of puts go up in SMH the last 2 days. Who knows what they're doing there? Maybe they're hedging out a long portfolio of semis with a ton of names reporting, rather than take an outright short position or a speculative short position. A few other names that reported: Chipotle, which is up. It looks like the bad news is completely out right now when you see a move up like that, because their numbers weren't awesome that they had for results. I think they missed on their same store sales number, but looks like the bad news is out there. What else reported? AMD, U.S. Steel. I'm drawing a blank already. Let me just bring up the event screen for the day. It looks like we've got some crew data that's just hit the news wires as well. Win also reported earnings. I believe they were actually down a little bit, not much. It looks like they're down a few dollars. A couple other names that reported: Juniper reported. They've now turned around. They're actually down a little bit as well. So that's it for the main names that reported. I would say, I was kind of waiting or watching, if you remember, for a shoe to drop off, but it looks like everybody is reporting pretty good numbers. A couple one-offs, but for the most part, pretty strong. If you remember last quarter, AMD and U.S. Steel reported, the price action just these names got smoked after earnings. But same thing with U.S. Steel, down 26. But they're both moving to the upside. So very, very strong and nice numbers, I would say, all around overall. So that's great stuff. VIX, I might as well just talk about the VIX for a minute. In my newsletter on the weekend, what I usually talk about is what we know and what we don't know. One thing I could tell you, with the VIX down at 943, multi-year lows we hit this morning, we got all the way down to a 9. The market isn't pricing in any volatility. What does this mean? What do we know? Is that protection is extra cheap. So if you're looking for a hedge, if you want to stay in this market as we're moving higher right now, and through a number of other big earnings reports, if you're worried about somebody, Amazon's coming out. If you're worried about somebody missing and taking the market a little bit lower, hey, you can get into some puts very, very cheap. The insurance is for your portfolio is extremely cheap. We do have a Fed meeting tomorrow too. I think nobody was really has their mind on that right now. I think everybody's looking at earnings reports, but we do have a Fed meeting tomorrow. Maybe they do something to kind of upset the apple cart tomorrow. But again, what we do know right now is that puts are extremely cheap to buy and to insure. So if you don't want to reduce your cash positions, or sorry, if you don't want to add to your cash position, if you want to stay in this market, might as well buy something that's really cheap. Again, not telling you to go out and do that. I'm just saying it is what it is, and it's really cheap to do so. The major averages, S&P did what, we got to a 52-week high, I believe earlier. We came off that level a little bit towards the end of the day, but still, 52-week high. IWM very strong today. The reason, when you look into IWM, what the biggest holding is, which a lot of people don't do this. A lot of people, they don't look to see what's driving the performance. It's banks. The banks are the biggest weight in the small caps. When you also add in REITs, the whole financial sector is about 20% of the IWM. So, banks were very strong today, up about 1.5%. Energy also very strong, and the metals and mining. What a huge play in this FCX that we've had on. We've been holding this for a little over a week, and just monster day. I got into these FCX. The position that I have on an FCX is September 14 calls. I paid 30 cents for this about a week ago, marking at $1.35. So really nice. And I said all along when I got into this position, I realized when they were reporting earnings, I said for 30 cents, I don't mind holding a 30-cent position into earnings. Really, I tend to take option positions off if they're marking like at $1 or something like that. But for 30 cents, I knew I was going to be holding this into earnings. So what a move, coupled with, a nice earnings report, coupled with this move in copper today. So up 4%. So a lot of good things going on. Not just one particular area. It wasn't just tech didn't even really participate today. It was, some other moves. Retail, what a huge move in XRT today, up 2.6%. Some of this could have been, Trump was tweeting things about Amazon. Maybe if you get on Amazon's back, everybody else in this sector has a little bit of a relief rally. That's what we saw in this group today. We saw towards I wouldn't say the end of the day, but the afternoon, we saw a little bit of Alta calls. This name's below the 200-day moving average, which is against one of my rules. I did go long this name as it broke through the top of value, so I am long Alta right now via some calls and call spreads. A couple different trades that I structured around that. Some other trades that we saw today. By the way, here was the Alta calls. You could see both the September 265s and the September 1st. They do report the September 1st trade. Maybe somebody's looking for a run into earnings because they do report on 8/24. So they went right after that. Couple of other trades that I participated in today. Walmart had a big day, 12,000 September 80 calls. So I managed to hit 2 targets in this Walmart trade today. Walmart, when I looked at this earlier, I saw the nice gap back above the 50-day moving average. It almost back to where it was when the story hit about Amazon and Whole Foods. A couple other trades that I was interested in today and I took was TXT. TXT has already reported earnings, so you don't have to worry about that. 7,000 of the January 55 calls. So a decent clip higher here, up to 55. But, this name's been moving sideways. Maybe this name is ready to get going here, which is why I took it. And then also, this was a name that was in my report last week, Splunk. It seems like they continue to buy a little bit of calls. You can kind of see how Splunk calls have been being traded. You look and you see 500 contracts. Well, you start to look at the sweeps and the price of what they did here. They're accumulating. By 65 calls, which they're expensive. They're not cheap, but you can see sweep, 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 sweep. Again, under 100 lots, but just tells me somebody's trying to fly underneath the radar. Whether they know something is a whole nother story, but it looks like they're trying to be a little bit sneaky with how they're buying. Other than that, or they're just just buying in pieces. But this is something that we've seen probably for the last week and a half now, is buying in Splunk. So I finally got into this position today. Other trades that I thought were notable for the day, there was some Deutsche Bank calls that went up. Deutsche Bank and EUFN, which I shot a video last week on EUFN. Unfortunately, I did not get into it. So this is probably where we saw the calls go up. It looked a little bit extended to me. It did come in, so it's been kind of just hovering here for the last few days. This is again European financials, and made that like higher today. So no bearish MACD crossover. DB, we saw, I think it was around a block of 5,000 calls that went up for Deutsche Bank. So Deutsche Bank, since it got over the 200-day moving average, hasn't really done much, but maybe it's ready to get going now. A few other trades highlighted here: CRC, HPE, which they continue to buy. There's been repeat call buying in that name. I talked about Alta already, some ECA call buying, but again, really nice day in terms of option activity and participation. Good to see some of those other sectors catch up, not just tech participating today. The banks were really hot. We saw some call buying both in Citigroup yesterday as well as Bank of America. So good to see these. They've been pretty quiet since they reported earnings. It was nice to see that aggressive call buying yesterday. Kind of felt like something was going on. My theory was that it was for the Fed meeting, but it doesn't really matter why I think or what the reasoning is, as long as it goes up, right? So that's it for today's earnings. We got a huge amount of earnings coming out again tomorrow. So we go through all this. I usually mention this once a week. If you're not a member of Tribeca Trade Group, great time to join right now. I go over all the names pre-market, talk about what's moving, talk about what's not, what beat, what didn't, and then also, I spend quite a bit of time also going over all the setups. Like I said, I went long iRobot. Another name that I went long, again, it doesn't have weeklies, so I just went ahead and bought. I actually bought September's, and this is ALK, Alaska Airlines. So move all the way back to the 200-day moving average. I figured I'll give it a shot here at the 200-day moving average. So I did purchase some call spreads for tomorrow's earnings that go out to September. So those are my two plays. iRobot, which looks like it's going to be a winner, and we'll see how ALK does. Have a great night, and see you tomorrow in the trading room. Thanks.